Welcome to Shiny Side Out with Dave. Broadcasting from Australia for Revolution Radio on freedomslips.com, where it's more than just radio. So jump into the chat room if you can. This is show number 453. 100. It's on air, online, and on your smart device. So grab an app to listen anywhere or listen at home on a Grace Tabletop Digital Radio. If you missed Solaris's show, she had Lorian Fenton, another host on Revolution Radio. It's almost like a cross promotion for a Lorian show. It was great. They were talking about world affairs and, the virus and the Great Reset. A whole bunch of things came up, Becky. We're going to continue those in our news articles. And once again, an awesome show. However, if you missed it and you're only catching our show for the first time, or it's on YouTube or any other platform that we're on, you don't have to have missed her shows. You can just subscribe at the freedomslips.com site. And you can subscribe to the archives and you can get access and a Patreon thing, and you get access to the archives. So you don't have to miss anyone's shows, not just her shows or our shows, but all the host shows. And I think it really works out that really good for everybody if you do that. Because not everyone does a YouTube like Meki and I, like Shiny Side Out does. So we do. It's also in the archives, but you'll only be able to get our show if you go to YouTube. Right? So if you want the other host shows, and please do, because, it's such a convenient way of being able to consume information, and it's just an MP3. It's an old podcasty style, right? And it's good. I think it's good for you. It's good for me. It's good for everybody. Now, Meki and I, because we live in Australia, and I absolutely implore you to do the same thing, is discover who the original people of the land where you lived. Who were they, and what do they do? How do they live in that landscape? And I know where I live, it's the Darkinyung, and Meki.
It's the rock people.
It sure is. And we acknowledge these traditional custodians of land, and we pay our respects to elders past, present, and future. We also understand the ways that they looked after the land, and should there be a need that arises in the future, Meki, I'm sure I will, when it's required, and maybe civilization has come to an end, I'm going to continue through the lessons that I've learnt from the local people, how to and where to, maintain the land as it is. So, because I think that's so important. I learned something the other day, Meki, that when, of course, the Sydney landscape is different now with all the buildings we've built, but in the past, when and specifically due to the nature of the caring of the land, where we live in an extremely hazardous environment, with 9 of the top 10 deadliest snakes. We've got spiders that will kill you.
We're working on number 10. Dave, we're working on number 10.
We're getting to the show. The mumbo, damn spitting mumbo thing, the black mumbo, whatever it is in Africa, we'll take you out, Matty, and then we'll be at the top to have all 10. I'm not competitive. So when the first fleet, when they arrived, Meki, what they saw at the other end of Parramatta River was not trees, they saw grasslands.
Yes.
And those grasslands were there because of the way that the custodians, the traditional custodians, had looked after the land by doing fire clearing in sections and sort of like rotary farming. Not using rotary hose, but rotational crop rotation. But rather than planting crops, you burn a section and then you live on that section. And then later, when you burn the next section, you live on that section, you just move it round. And so you're not always burning the same section, and, 20-year cycles, right? So I think it's really, really important that's something. Now, that was the evidence that is out by what the first settlers came to view when they looked at this beautiful pastoral land. Of course, it wasn't pastoral land. It has been tended to in such a way as to maintain, break the tree cycle and have grasslands, because the grasslands bring other, herbivores in, and it's easier to hunt without the trees, right? So I think it's really important, Mickey, just for us to take that time to bring that up. I heard that this week and I was reminded of it. So
to be clear, that the Aboriginals, Australia was settled in waves over tens of thousands of years, always in waves. But the point here is that the Australians that existed when Captain Cook or even the Dutch came, or the Spanish or whoever, they actually had a fairly complex culture and civilization. Mm-hmm. Some of it is still surviving. Most of it has been destroyed by colonization. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is, it is not just it was a very intricate social fabric. That goes without saying, I guess. But more so, there was agriculture, there was forest management, there were permanent settlements, right? There was food storage. Mm-hmm. There was a division of labor. I mean, it wasn't just one Aboriginal nation. Think of the state of Australia 300-400 years ago, similar to that of North America 400 or 500 years ago, where you had very many different nation states of first nation peoples in what is now North America or even South America. In fact, in South America, you had vast empires that were equivalent in many ways to what Europeans had at the time. Maybe somewhat, it's a little bit behind in some areas, but not much more advanced in other areas. So, Aboriginals that were here were not these. This image that we have is this primitive kind of person walking around the desert, digging for grubs.
That's right.
That's not at all what it was. Not even close, right? So this is just a whitewash of history, because the thing is, there was actually, I don't know if you know this, but there was a rule that the European colonizers had. You could not claim a colony unless there weren't any people there. So if there were already people there, like that, let me put it this way: so China could not be a colony of England. The English could come and try to, conquer the Chinese or even the Indians, and they could do this. They tried with the Opium Wars, and they certainly tried it in India, but they couldn't just claim it because there's already someone there. So there's this concept of terra nullius. Terra nullius means there's no one there. So it's essentially no man's land is what it translates to. And that's what they claimed for Australia. Terra nullius. There's no one here. That's why they didn't classify the Aboriginal people that were here as people. And they said, no, there's no culture here. There's no one here. No civilization. What are you talking about? Look over there. And promptly proceeded to kill them all. Look, not that it ever helped anyone, but even their own rules didn't follow. I mean, if you look at the history of colonization in South America, North America, in the Pacific, in Southeast Asia, in South Asia, and in Africa, that's pretty much the only places. There's no one really colonized the Antarctic. You can see just how brutal it was. Right? So terra nullius, yeah, sure. So what? You're going to kill everybody who's there, but they couldn't just take it. That's the point, right?
No, that's right.
There's something else I need to say quickly. There are three shout-outs, or four really, but three shout-outs to our esteemed listenership. Number one, happy Narrenzeit, or for Narrenzeit, on the 11th of the 11th, 11 in the AM, what we call in Germany, the Fool's Time started. The Narrenzeit.
That's Remembrance Day for us.
Exactly, that's exactly right. And it culminates it concludes with Ash Wednesday, but before Ash Wednesday we have something called Carnival, which is similar to the Rio Carnival, where everybody dresses up and there's like parades and there are floats and all kinds of pageantry, and it's a lot of celebration. So that started on the 11th. Also, Happy Diwali to our South Indian listenership in diaspora or at home. Happy Diwali, the Festival of Lights. Interesting enough. So if you go around the neighborhood and you're thinking, Christmas lights are up early, probably not. Probably not. They're probably the lights for Diwali, again, Festival of Light, and people used to say in Christmas lights they would for Christmas, right? So you're forgiven, you're for par. And then finally, Happy Thanksgiving.
Yes, of course.
That's as well, and we hope that everybody has a safe holiday season. It's a little ironic, I think, because obviously we're in a pandemic and it brings to mind how the original inhabitants of North America received pestilence-infested blankets from the
the great exporter.
English and then finally, also Andrew. Thanks for listening, my friend. He told me he's one of the gentlemen we work with, Andrew Percival. I've outed you. So thank you for listening.
Thanks, Andrew.
Thank you, everybody who's making the time every week, be it on YouTube or here, or we're talking live, to listen to us. I really appreciate it. So to give a couple of things I just want to mention. It's the season. If you can make it in the chat room, please go. We are there now, Dave and I both. We're there. He's in Arara, I'm Mickey, pretty straightforward. Look, SJ, Scottish Judge Omega Logos. Scottish Judge, that's nice. It's a mouthful. But yeah, look, hi there in the chat, and hey, SJ, and hey, Omega Logos. In fact, I had a philosophy teacher in Germany, and she said, the way you have to pronounce logic is logic, and logos.
Wow.
She was very big on her Greek pronunciation. Yeah, I learned. She was super clever. She was the first person to teach me about Plato's cave.
Yeah, okay. You might have mentioned that a couple of times. Yes,
I may have. That was back. I was. I'm over 50 now. I can tell the same story twice.
You got to listen to it. Yeah. That's what over 50 does. Yeah. Becky, there's a new creature that I thought that you might want to know about. That it beats it by 20 million years. The coelacanth story. This is the gilled shark that lives 1.5 kilometers beneath the water, like nearly a mile down. It's called the gilled shark and has 25 rows of teeth. And the rows are separate rows of a cluster of 3 or 4 teeth. And each of these rows has about 5 or 6 teeth going further into the mouth. And they all hook backwards into the mouth. And each row is like fingers spread apart, if you know what I mean. So from the inside of the mouth, they sort of broaden as they get to the outer ridge of the jaw, the upper and lower jaws. So anything you do once you've been bitten is only a one-way trip in. There isn't any way coming out. They all hook in. And this shark, the last fossil that they'd ever found was 80 million years ago. 80 million. And they thought, we'll never see that again, right? That was,
yeah, clearly, before the dinosaurs.
That's right. And, yeah, well, no, they found one. One was filmed just this year. And they went, we've never seen this before. And then the fossil guys have gone, don't. Like, stop it. You know, where, and it was off Japan. And it came from the deepest trench. And sure enough, it's unchanged from the original fossil. It's just a little shorter. We don't know what their breeding cycle is like, but
could be juvenile. Yeah. I mean, it could be juvenile. But see, this is the thing, and this is really important. I think
fit you inside it. It would.
That we have. Yeah, I think we have proven, and I mean proven, not just some theories around this. I think we've proven that we don't know everything. I think we've proven that.
I hope so.
Right? And because over the last 10 years, we do follow up on things, right? We bring new things to you, the science, cutting-edge stuff, because it actually adds to the narrative, right? And when it adds to the narrative, then we want to make sure that you know. So there are a lot of things that we just take for granted. That's just at face value. This, speed of light is this. The fastest speed there is. Well, how do you know that? Oh, science.
It was like the speed of sound.
Well, maybe.
Just going to remind you about the speed of sound you made the claims of too, right? Science. Hello, science.
Exactly. Exactly. Maybe relativistically speaking, that's probably true. But if you step out away from the bounds of relativistic Einsteinian physics and you look at quantum physics, and there is in fact no distance.
There isn't distance.
Spooky action at the distance, right? Yeah, because you can two entangled particles will you do you do certain thing to one thing, it's the same thing instantaneously happens to the other. So, and we've proven this experimentally. But my point is, there's a lot of stuff we don't know. A lot of stuff we don't. We like to we like to be that kid, Dave. We like to be that kid that says, yeah, I know it all, I know it all, I know that, I've read that, I know all about it. Yeah, nothing new for me. That's how we treat everything from a scientific point of view. But we're not. That kid doesn't exist. We don't know everything, and we haven't read it all. Okay, we haven't even been briefed on the initial outlines of the universe. Right? We're scrambling around in the dark and trying to figure out what's going on. Literally in the dark.
Mickey, could you imagine just like the greatest American superhero, the cover page?
Donald Trump?
Wait. That's funny. I like that. The cover page was lost that says "Welcome to the simulation." Right, and the rest of it is just the stories we've inherited as humans. That's really funny.
But thank you for sharing that. I hadn't actually picked that up. But it just goes to show every day we learn something new. My favorite thing still is this extra gland. You know,
it's a salivary gland, yeah.
Saliva gland. Behind
at the very top sort of, mouth, of the tube between your nose and your throat. Exactly where the toilet brush was poked to do the COVID test.
But we've been cutting each other for thousands of years. And there was this German dude who actually, he sliced...
Yeah, that was the guy that made everyone into plastic.
Yeah, exactly. But he sliced these people up. This one person, he was, I think, a death row. No, it doesn't matter. He sliced this person up. I think slices are like a millimeter thick, literally. So, I mean,
like a CT scan, yeah.
Like sliced the whole person up, right? Yeah. And he didn't find it. He didn't find it. And we've been chomping on our head for forever. So isn't this? I mean, the way I came about it was someone said, "Oh, it's this Mandela effect." Because, I mean, how often do you find a fairly sizable organ, like an inch or two, right, in size? And it is an organ, right? Make no mistake about it. How often do you find a new organ in the human body?
Not so often. Like this 15th century. Mickey.
Oh, look! I've got another stomach here. I always knew it. This one's for sure.
Good.
Okay? I knew it.
That's why I can always fit in dessert, even though I've eaten a full meal. So look, I had to bring it to you because I knew you'd love it. And it was the first thing that came to mind when they said this creature's discovery 80 million years was the last fossil. Good luck. Thank you. I noted that down straight away.
But it also goes to show just how fragmentary and utterly incomplete the
we got no idea.
Is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's like.
And look, if you're interested, if you're listening and you're interested, you've got to realise that we did a whole show on the problem of dating, right? So I don't mean going to a restaurant these days and at least flowers. Yeah.
Maybe have a coffee first. Don't go straight for the dinner. That's too. No, that's not what we're talking about.
This is the problem of how do you date something that's in a stratum that other people are going to say that was either interfered with or it was buried, so it was dug up and was cross contamination. And if it's cut stone, how do you date it? Because you can only date the stone, which is going to well outdate the cuts you made on it. The whole thing is problematic, but they've been able to come to using different, and we're not going to go into it, but using different tools and different styles of dating depending on the complexity of the item and its stratum that it's found in. And I say stratum because it's usually found in some kind of layered, right? Some kind of layers. My favourite one of all time is the one that we just spoke about that in the last show cycle, which is finding a fossil between two lava deposits where there couldn't have been any intrusion between. It's just hilarious, and they still argued it down. So, Mickey, I wanted to point out that this is our first hour of news, and we've only got 36 minutes left.
We'll make it.
And the first thing is virus. Clearly, it's the virus we're talking about first. And
it's the virus, stupid. Show me the bead. Show me the virus.
Yeah. Well, to those people who don't believe that viruses even exist, but they do, something really interesting about the virus, though, I have to point out, is that when you examine what a patent is, you can't patent nature, Mickey. You can't.
No.
Because, you know...
Yeah,
because everything would have been patented already. Right? So if you could.
In my beautiful green eyes too.
You'd be patented. There you go. And then someone would sue you for, existing. So, because that's what they do, right? There's people that just want to patent something that someone already has made. And they do that, and there's a country that does it more than anyone else. So, but that's what I want to talk about. So we went up 3 million cases this week, Mickey. This week saw 3 million new cases of the virus. And it's not that, it's only like, I don't know, it's not that bad with the amount of people, saying 70,000 dead or something, right? They're rookie numbers. And they're rookie numbers,
It's funny, but it's also...
It's really distressing for those people who have passed away, right? I do, and I've lost friends this year, and in fact almost one a month a couple of months back. Yeah.
Oh, really?
But to other things. So, they didn't have the virus at all. They just up and died, right? So it was their bag. That's what happened to them. Their life, the roulette wheel, the chocolate wheel of life that spun, and you're going to get a brain tumor, or you're going to get this. So, I don't laugh at their deaths. I have to laugh at death because it's, I've lost half of my form, both my parents, and I've got a daughter who's got issues, right?
Look, Freud believed that laughter and humor is actually a defense mechanism to keep us sane. So we make fun of things that we're terrified of. So
well, Mickey, since the virus has been around, I can think I can laugh in 23 different personalities. That's a great meme if you haven't seen it. It's great.
What about Bob?
So, one of the things we told you way back was when the virus first broke, the first thing I did was go to the patent search, and I found coronavirus there. And I found different entries, 2003, 2015, 2014, different versions of the virus. Now, understanding that you can't patent nature means that they had to have manipulated the virus in such a way for it to be patentable. Manipulated the virus in such a way that it was not something that nature built. Does it make sense?
Yeah, it's usually done to either test on it or create.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Also, some of the really weird money trails that followed these patents and the research centers, and US to China and China to the US, and both of them can blame each other because of the origin of it or who did the work, but unilaterally they were complicit, it appears, through the information that's coming forward, that there was at least something going on. Now, if you don't remember in the news, Mickey, there was a whole bunch of stuff where some university had this, an extension of people from China working in there, and they were pushing money backwards and forwards between borders. And there was staff working in the Wuhan lab, and there was a whole, this whole thing going on, and all that conversation seemed to have shut down. And what we're at now is this point at which Australia has pretty much gotten itself under control. Worst lockdowns in human history, but we've gotten to there at longest. Yes, not the worst, because there's, I can think of some camps, Mickey.
I think in the Warsaw Ghetto.
That's right. So very funny. So yeah, you're right. So the longest one, and what will the picture look as we go into 2021? What's it going to? How are we going to emerge from this? Because at the moment we're the first ones out to play, right? So New Zealand, not so much. They started getting infections again and community spread, and they had some problems. Right now, our community spread is currently 0, and we're kind of okay. So imagine the first kid in the street to be virus free and comes outside and there's no one there.
To be clear, right? So we need to make this statement here so everybody doesn't get their hopes up, because that's the dangerous thing. I don't think this is going to go away.
No.
Right. So what do I mean by this? So first of all, let's look at the virus itself. So it's not slowing down. You look at the graphs, and I know a lot of you don't believe there's a virus. That's fair enough, okay? And you know what? Maybe there isn't, but something is killing people, okay? And it's definitely killing people. And it's killing people at such a rate that we're now at 10,000 daily deaths. 10,000. 10,000 people a day gone. So in a year, that's 3.6 million people. Okay? 3.6 million people in a year. If this keeps going. And it's going up, by the way. Okay? And the infection rates, remember back in the good old March days, we had
I know, crazy. Remember those days.
And we thought, oh my God.
We're reminiscing.
Dave, this could, and now it's sitting at a 500,000 to 600,000. So 10 times. It's 10 times the amount. That's the detected ones because people are being tested. So this isn't going to go away. Number one, we might have bubbles, and then people are talking about it in New Zealand, Australia, maybe Singapore, maybe in a couple other countries that have travel bubbles. That's a possibility that they're thinking about. But for us, most of the infections are coming from overseas now. So people in hotel quarantine are the ones that are sick. Okay, so in Australia itself, we've been lucky, touch wood, here's my head. We have not really been experiencing much of a community transmission. And again, tough lockdowns, absolutely. The next thing, though, and this is not going to affect here, is a lot of people are no longer getting the vaccines they used to get. There are a lot of control. Look, everybody has an opinion on vaccines. I do too.
I've had mine every year for the flu vax, yeah.
And I've taken
Me
my
too.
kids in because I had their vaccines. In Germany, in Germany they don't have an MMR. In Germany it's all separate. But be that as it may, right? I had measles when I was growing up. It was pretty bad. I had chickenpox. I had all kinds of childhood diseases. Even though I had the vaccine, I still got sick. But my point is, I will get my kids vaccinated, and I have been, lucky so far, touch wood, right? I mean, nothing adverse has happened, or adverse, I should say. But what's happening nowadays is because of COVID-19, a lot of people aren't going out to get vaccinated for measles, for example. So people are terrified now. I listened to this medical report, and again, there are a lot of medical professionals in my family, in my wife's family, I should say, in the extended friendship group that we have as well. We have medical professionals that we know both here in Australia as well as the United States and in Europe. And you can argue, they're all in on the conspiracy that there is no virus. They're telling me it's pretty bad, but it's the knock-on effect they're terrified of if people miss their measles vaccines. If enough people don't get the measles vaccine, for example, we lose herd immunity, right? And measles can have severe effects, including death, if you catch it. So it's not going away though, Dave. And this is really the problem. So Australia's going to be okay, to your point, going forward. Mostly we're going to be okay. And we just have to monitor our borders, make sure that we keep a fairly tight regime once we let people back in. And the vaccines are on the way, they say, they're around the corner. So I would say a goodly number of people vaccinated probably by the end of next year, by the end of 2021. Yep. Right? So this is with us until the end of 2021.
I want to add what the vaccines do. So knowing that if you've say you've encountered a vaccine, or sorry, not a vaccine, a virus on a surface, and you touch your face has oils, and the oils will have the ability to keep the virus alive for up to 28 days, depending on your activities. So 28 days, Mickey, then you can retouch your face, then later on wash your hands, touch your face, and then touch your eyes, and game on for the virus, right? The thing is that the vaccine doesn't stop you becoming infected with the virus or infectious to others. What it does, it lessens the severity of the virus that you end up only having asymptomatic experience with the virus. It doesn't kill the virus. It doesn't stop it at you. It just, you just become, I don't know, a rod for it. Like you start giving it out to others. That's what the vaccine is currently. Its only ability to do is. So most of the people, look. I'll say that the current world case fatality rate is 3.58. We're getting better at it. We're getting better at treatment. Remdesivir, azithromycin. I know all these drugs, right? I know the treatments. I know that the very few people end up, in the beginning it was 10% of all the cases that were tested for ended up going into critical care. Now it's really, really low. Like the numbers are so low that end up in critical, but because we've got these treatments in place that we're able to deal with it. Yeah, it was a guessing game back in March, right? When we had 68% case fatality rate. But what we're seeing, Meki, now is there's so many people that are becoming infected that it is inevitable that the hospitals will have to turn away people with regular problems. And that's where we're going to see greater cases, greater death rates, but not related to COVID.
100%. 100%. This has always been. Look, my medical friends tell me this. This was the massive fear. And there's some fairly senior medical people I know. That was a huge fear that Australia would just be overwhelmed. And Dave is right. So what do? You've got a couple of cardiac arrests. And
triage, man. That's what it's all about.
50 COVID patients coming. And that's we've seen it happening in India more than maybe anywhere else. But we've seen. I'm sure it's happened elsewhere, but we've seen it at least. It's a terrifying situation. So look, but COVID. We're going to be in this situation for a long time, and I'll tell you why we're going to be in this for a long time. And this goes to the next, another thing we wanted to talk to you about. So I'm going to have this sort of a sequel, but not really, because they're connected. So we wanted to talk to you guys about the Great Reset. In fact, the show cycle after this is going to be about the Great Reset.
It's time.
So I've started gathering information. 100%. It's critical that we talk about it. I've started gathering information, etc., etc. The point is that the Great Reset is this idea of a few, I guess, let's call them oligarchs, if you will, or whatever, or high-ranking functionaries within the world apparatus of the IMF and so forth. They want, including Prince Charles,
the WEF, the UN,
readers with the world. Yeah, they want to take everything. They want to take everything away. They essentially, it says you will sign everything over in order to be debt free. Then I thought about it. The more I thought about it, and I analyzed and I looked at a few scenarios. Dave, before I go on, I want to ask you a question. What about the people that are debt free?
That are currently debt free? Yeah, completely. Yeah. What about all the millennials that just walk around with a phone? The only thing that they care... I'm being very general here, right? And don't hate me. All the millennials that I know that listen to the show, because they've got a few, Meki, don't hate me on this, but they've got the aspiration to own things is nil. All they want is a phone and internet.
Right.
And they're having to rent.
And that's for them the Great Reset.
Uber.
For them the Great Reset would be down. But hang on. So I have what I have to pay, plus I get paid. Sweet. No. But what about people that have stuff but don't have debt? Right? And there are a lot of people that have things. They've either they worked hard for it, they own it, it's theirs, whatever it might be, businesses, property, anything. And I don't see anyone signing anything over, especially if there's no trade-off. Because the trade-off here is the thinking is, well, you sign over all your stuff, but therefore, but at the same time, we'll forgive all your debts. In fact, what people would do is probably going to sell all their stuff so they got cash left over, and then just if that's what they're going to do anyway, I don't want to hear about it. It's a very unlikely thing to happen unless, and this is where COVID comes in, unless the situation is going to get more and more dire. So we've seen lockdowns now, Dave. We've seen pretty militant kind of actions taken against people that break the lockdown as well. We've seen unrelated, sort of related race riots, if you will, Black Lives Matter protests. You've seen violence, not yet quite to the scale of thought, but there's violence around the election itself, the vote count, etc. That's still ongoing. President Trump still hasn't. That's still a thing, an ongoing thing with Sydney Powell going to release.
I'll just quickly short that. That she's talking about there by this Friday coming, not the one being, but this next one, maybe having all their submissions in. So the submissions to every county, because it's county driven. It's the largest piece of legal matters that's probably ever been undertaken. But there's it's very vast, and if it sees the light of day in a court, it's going to be, and possibly even shake the foundations of people that trusted in democracy. Right? Anyway, that's enough.
No, but look, we'll see how that plays out, right? So the point is, we're not there. Okay, so we can't say, okay, it's all done. That's not at all. But in order to bring about such a great reset, as it's envisioned by its architects. You need to have a compelling event, a massive crisis, or some other agency that allows you to do that. And right now, we don't have it. We don't have it. The world is not in bad enough a state for the Great Reset to fly. And that's why I'm terrified, Dave, because now that it's being talked about, right? Now it's actually an open policy now, right? January 21, the Great Reset. I mean, forget that January 21 for a second. Right? But the Great Reset, that's just in Time Magazine. I bought Time Magazine. I hadn't bought it in a long time.
Yeah.
I bought a whole bunch of magazines. In the Spectator, bought the Australian diplomat, was called the Forest. Well, I got a whole stack of articles I have to go through here in light of the Great Reset. And it's being talked about. So to me, that means there's going to be another adjustment coming, meaning the COVID-19 situation is going to get worse, irrespective of if there's a virus or not. The situation is going to get worse.
Mm-hmm.
Economies are going to get worse, and there's actually no slowdown at all. Anyway, and the northern hemisphere is going into winter, right? So we're seeing a million or so, maybe soon, cases a day, right? Soon, we will see maybe 1 million deaths a day potentially. I don't want to call it, but
well, there's a threshold, Mickey, obviously, for medical attention. At some point, people won't. Like we didn't get the vaccine, the regular flu vax or any other vaxes, the people won't get seen to. They'll be in their home. They'll just pass away.
Correct. The thing is this, though. I mean, right now we don't have the means to deliver the vaccines to everybody who needs them. So the plan is to get the most vulnerable first, which is, of course, that's sensible, right? So you need the ampules, you need the infrastructure, and they have to be super cold. So there's only a limited number of trucks or trains
That's correct.
that can actually transport these things. Okay? So there's a huge infrastructure. So forget about making the vaccine or finding it. Once you found it and made it, that's fantastic. How do you get it everywhere? How do you distribute it, etc., etc.? And the problem here is massive.
And only has a month shelf life too.
Never. In the history of the world. Yeah, but in the history of the world, we've never tried to do any of this. None of it. We've never tried to do
instantaneously,
this now,
from a times perspective, vaccinate everyone on the planet.
Yeah.
And that's why Australia's building that $1 billion vaccine manufacturing plant in South Australia.
Yes, because we are many things. We're not stupid. Okay. So what we're finding is that there are these shortcomings. Okay, these bottlenecks, and there's no way, Dave, that we're going to have enough people vaccinated by the end of next year.
Yeah, that's why Trump was attempting to get the military to assist with the deployment of it. And that's pretty clever, because getting volunteers out there, well, they're already a paid resource, so just use them, right? Yeah. But that comes with passports, Mickey. It comes with vaccination passports and checkpoints and the whole. You got to wait for it. Wait for what it means. You don't just get the vaccine and you can trot about your day as normal.
Yeah. No, it's going to be a whole set of restrictions around. I completely agree. But the problem is that by the time that we have the vaccination distributed and it's effective or efficacious within the population, we'll look at 10
by then,
dead. We look at the economy. We look at this time next year, we'll still be looking at these numbers rising. I'm going to tell you this right now. Especially in India, especially in Africa.
They're going to take their toll, man, so bad.
It's just going to happen. Yeah. And at that point, the Great Reset will all of a sudden become very feasible. Because, we were talking about, there won't be enough people to bury the people that will die. Okay? This is the kind of thing we're moving into. In Australia, again, touch wood, we seem to have been spared the worst, and so far we're pretty good. But these are the non-COVID related.
Repurposing an empty house, Mickey, would become a lot easier, right? If the government owned it, right?
Well,
I'm not saying I'm not saying that I'm a communist or a socialist. Unless my dad's talking, then he says I'm a communist. But even I get like all the red flags come up when they start talking about this, and it's such a change. But it's a change we had to have, apparently, according to them. And watch some videos. Just type the Great Reset in, just watch a couple of videos, and then catch our show cycles on it. Because, completely terrifying. And I know that I've worked damn hard all my life, and I've got a house, like a reasonable sized block of land. I built the house, and And I wouldn't want to lose that. I worked too hard for it. But if it meant that I got 100k a year for the rest of my life, I don't know. Because think about how much money the government could borrow if they had all their assets.
Don't have to borrow.
They could just
make it. Just print it.
Yeah, just type zeros into my account and I don't care, right? Whatever. And if I didn't have a mortgage, any money's good money then, right? Because all my money goes on a mortgage. So, Anyway, so there's a very funny cartoon, Mickey, that's up here from spectator.com.au. And it's headed here, Davos 2021 will launch its own Green New Deal. Be afraid, it says. And it's a cartoon by Ben Davis. And it's a doctor talking to a patient. And the doctor says, you can expect some shocking after effects from COVID-19. And he goes, headache, fatigue, brain fog? He goes, no, fascists, oligarchies, and a new world order.
Yeah, there you go, boom, right there. Okay, and then it's these political cartoons are the barometer of our time. Mm-hmm. They always have been, really, right? And so what we're telling you is it's not original thought. It is just what's happening. There's another thing that is actually making this whole thing much worse. And Dave shared an article with me recently. I didn't realize that they hadn't. I shared it with you, I think. Someone shared it with me. But the ice, especially in Greenland, etc., is melting 10 times faster than we had initially thought.
10 times faster.
10 times. We've always said this here on the show. We've got models, we know we don't, but there's so many things we don't know. And the model is only as good as the data as you put into it. That's it. You put the data in, the model runs great. It's not the reality. The map is not the territory. Remember that. The map is not the territory. So now that we see what's actually happening in the world, it looks like, there's these knock-on effects and these other things are happening that actually, speeding up the melting processes. And what is happening there is you get the permafrost melting, you get the sea levels rising. So we've got a lot of low-lying communities in the world. We all like to live on the water. That's just how we are, right? We're just snobbish that way. But once you've got the seawater rising to the sewage level, okay, you've got diseases in the street, you've got the contamination of groundwater and drinking water. You've got viruses and bacteria released in the permafrost that haven't been with us for 100,000 years or longer. This is the kind of scenario that you can turn into an awesome TV show. It's really a scenario that you don't want to live through ever, Dave. So this is why I think this great reset is a possibility if all of these things happen and things
just remembering that it's been dusted off. This plan was dusted off. It had been created years ago about the unemployment numbers rising so high due to automation, basically making all of us unemployable. Yeah, because if there's an AI or a robot or something that can do that to us, then they had to find a way to sustain the population numbers, at least while we're still alive. And now they've found a way to do everything at once. Well, we can cull some people, we can, take all their assets and just give them money because, money makes everyone happy, right? And, what do you really want? I don't want to have to pay a mortgage anymore. It's the bank's killing me. But anyway, it seems this is the thing. I mean, it's funny, Mickey, because, you spoke of the Mandela effect already. It's almost like I woke up and everything changed. So, and I say this because it brings, I've got a ruler in front of me right now, and you can't see it, but it's down on the table, and I was as center as I could possibly be politically as a commentator, and I keep saying this on all my social media platforms, right? The only way I can stay in the center is listen to all of the information coming in and understand what the true story is and how does that reflect upon me, because when I'm in the middle, everyone on the far left and everyone on the far right don't agree with me. But I didn't move, but the ruler, for instance, just went over to the left and I ended up in the extreme right. I didn't move. I didn't change from one day to the next. I didn't change my view. But suddenly, one of Australia's most controversial radio presenters, Alan Jones, I now agree with him. what he says now is what I was saying. It's like he came in and snatched everything I was talking about, and now he's saying it, and now I feel, I don't know, kind of violated. I was in the middle. How did that happen? Mackie, what happened?
Yeah. But what happens is what you, okay, in order to push through the agendas as you see them before you unfolding, you need a polarizing kind of environment. That's where we are. And the shock jocks, on the left or the right, they're the most polarizing, entities, the most polarizing agencies that they have. And the more extreme opinions they bring out, the better. But maybe for the first time in a long time, these shock jocks also are starting to peddle the truth. Maybe they're going, hey, you know what? I don't have to make up this stuff anymore. I just tell me how it is, and because that's what we do. We don't tell you things to scare you. We tell you how things are, right? Or to the best of our knowledge. And maybe that's just the policy they've adopted. Maybe Al Jones woke up one morning and goes, oh, you know what can I talk about now? What's controversial? Then he just turn on the radio and look at Ron himself. No, it's just talk about what's happening.
Absolutely, just talk about what's happening. Because his whole presence in the media was always, getting all the extreme right people on the phone, talking about their opinions, and then just cutting the people on the left and keeping the people on the right talking. That's his bag, right? Extremely right-leaning audience. Mackie, a news story just broke here, and it's that I found out. This is November 20th, and it's Sidney Powell alleges or confirms alleged Dominion servers in Germany were confiscated. That there was some servers over there that were tampering with the numbers, but they were still operated by someone. There's more detail to come out. I'm sure we're going to see more on that. These are crazy times.
Oh, look there. It's. Well, can you trust the world if everything is zeros and ones? Can you really trust it anymore? We know what's possible, right? And then you can extend it to one of my favorite subjects, of course. Are we living in a simulation or not? How real is reality anyway? And the truth is, we don't know anything. We don't really know. We don't know. And you tell me the election was complete fraud? If that's the truth, if the election was manipulated to that end, then who wins, Biden or Trump? That's not going to be the issue. That's not the problem America has at all. That's like an afterthought. Who cares at this point? If the American system has fallen down and broken down so much that the fraud or manipulation on this scale was at all possible, they have to shut it down and find something new. Okay? That's I don't care how much money you have and influence and this and whatever and whoever. None of this matters, right? It doesn't. At that point, it doesn't matter if it's Biden or Trump or Mickey Mouse who's president at all.
Come on, Electoral College, Mickey Mouse.
There's truth. Yeah. If there's truth to this, right? And look, it's a serious allegation. Then you got to look at you got to fix that, right? And how far does it go back? At what point did you last have an election?
That's a big question, because Chavez used these Dominion servers or devices. Did you know that?
Yeah, I do. But I'll be honest with you, I've got a lot of time for Hugo Chavez. I'm not a
I don't have a problem with any government, because if it's a democracy, if it's a democracy and your vote truly does matter, then they do bad things. You can change the outcome next time around, right? That's what democracy is all about. However, if they, and this is the claim, that they use the devices to stay in power for 20 years, then I think we've got some big problems to have to deal with. It's like the whole of America will need to see its psychologist.
Oh, completely. But Putin's probably going to go, fools, you don't need Dominion server, you need just OKGB buddy.
Little bit killing.
Little killing goes a long way, no?
So, yeah.
Novocheck. Try Novocheck. It makes you feel inside out, but it's painful too, so too much no, that's what you say.
What? Yeah, I wouldn't start your car for some time. That's funny. Hey kids, who wants to start Daddy's car? I'm gonna have a street competition, Mackie. I'll put a little thing. I did do a vote. I did a poll, Mackie. Remember the poll?
Yes.
Let me just
Yes. Did you see mine?
Yes. Because I can't see the individual who did it, but I get to see the results, right? So I'm gonna.
Mine was.
Yeah, I know. I put that in just to see what people would come up with, right? And there was 2 votes for civil war, 1 for alien invasion, 1 Trump win, 1 Biden win, a global war, and a war with China. They all received some good votes, right? However,
good. Just to explain to our listeners, we've asked
this is at work.
This is the Christmas thing. It's just at work. So Dave was good enough to create this poll, and what's going to come in December. So we're going to say what put your money on what you think is coming in December to cap the year off. That's what they've
So I really thought Zombie Apocalypse was going to get at least the majority of votes, but 2 things. 1, Avatar in the other section. Triangles was another. So triangles are going to be a thing. Obviously we've got a Pythagoras fanboy there at work.
Really?
And the invasion of the entire Inner Earthers. I spotted yours, yeah. Invasion of the Inner Earthers, followed by a collapse of the magnetic field, pole reversal, and the appearance of Nibiru. Gold. Let's just put it that way.
That's December for you.
So I'm quite happy with the results, and I'd like to see if anyone has any update themselves, if anyone knows anything, because Mackie, when you said I had such and such for December, that got me going.
Fantastic. Let's.
I'm gonna put that in the chat room.
Yeah. Oh, good. Also, send it to everybody at work. Send it to all of them.
No.
And let's just do that. That's just. Oh, that's funny. That is fun. But look, it is true. It's a question, right? I mean, this has been such a crazy year, and on every level, Dave, on every level, the fire. We thought the fires would be the big story. Remember back in Now Naive days,
yes,
in November 20,
yes, you'd think, right?
Remember that?
You'd think that would have shaped and formed this year, 2020.
Yeah.
Not even.
No, nobody talks about it anymore. You don't even remember it anymore. What fire?
No, not even. Murder hornets.
And that's a crazy thing. And then we had obviously COVID-19 came along, the collapse of economies, the collapse of the airline industry. Then we had the election in the States. I mean, it just
murder hornets, Mackie.
I mean, if you, yes, murder hornets, murder hornets, right? I mean, what? I mean, it is really quite something. And funnily enough, and I'm going to put my conspiracy hat on here before the music starts. It all happened in the year that, for the first time ever, I have seen us move so close to disclosure. It's not funny, Dave. The Skinwalker Ranch and the TikTok. Okay, so it's TikTok.
The Tic-Tac.
Sighting, as well as the TikTok video. Tic-Tac video. And TikTok is the Chinese thing that was banned, right? So the Tic-Tac video, correct, number 1. And number 2, the documentary that was produced around the Skinwalker Ranch recently and aired at the beginning of this year. It was produced in November, I think October, November 2019, and then it aired at the beginning of the year. And now I'm waiting for the second part, but it's all sort of walking hand in hand, man. And they found stuff there. Now, if you haven't seen it, please go see it. Please do see it. That I have never seen before in my life. That I wouldn't think they would admit it. And there's music. Don't go away.
We're going to kick the stream and start off a new one for the show topic. We'll see you after a very, very, very short break. Use the time to donate to the station.